everyone. We all are here for the eighth episode of our Industrial Connect series. In earlier times, cars used to be mainly defined by its shape and design. But now it's much more than that, where software plays equal importance as the hardware part. And Acsia Technologies is a Trivandrum based company building infotainment services for leading automobile industries. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Rajan Thomas, Program Manager, and Mr. Jayachandran R, Vice President, People and Values at Acsia Technologies, talk about the future of the automobile industry, Axia's part in it, and the various job opportunities in this field. I welcome both of you. To introduce the speaker, I welcome Ms. Elizabeth Verghese, Assistant Manager, Talent Acquisition with Trinity Skillworks. I welcome
Yeah,
all the others present here today and those watching the live stream on YouTube. Once again, I welcome each and every one of you to this session. Also, students, please note, a Google form will be shared in the chat box at the end of the session. Please fill in the Google form to receive your certificate of participation. Over to you, ma'am.
all right. Hi, good evening. I hope I'm audible now.
Yeah, you are audible.
All right, great. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Industrial Connect sessions that we have today. Today, we have two esteemed guests for the session. That is Mr. Jayachandran and Mr. Rajan Thomas. So I'd like to, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce both of them. We'll start with Mr. Jayachandran. He serves as a Vice President, People and Value at Acsia Technologies. He has held numerous HR leadership positions in variety of industries, including telecom, BPO, KPO, IT, and ITES. Thank you for joining this session and appreciate your time from this busy schedule that you have, and still you have taken out time for this meeting. Thank you very much for joining in, sir. And next, I would like to introduce our speaker and our guest for this evening. That's Mr. Rajan Thomas. He works for Acsia Technologies as program manager with more than 18 years of experience. He is expert in the fundamental areas of automotive industry such as after sales, supply chain management, vehicle production control, instrument clusters, and infotainment. Before working with Acsia, he has spent 14 years with Nissan on their production and warehouse management systems across the globe, including Japan, America, and Europe. We eagerly look forward to hearing about your experience and your learning about automobile industry as well as the future of automobile industry and job opportunities in this space, sir. So over to you, sir. So Rajan sir, so if you can just brief us about this, about the automobile industry, sir. We look forward to hear from you, sir.
Hi. Thank you, Elizabeth. So, hello and good evening, all. Thank you, Skillax, for inviting Jayachandran and me from Axia for this talk. It is our pleasure to address young minds that are going to shape all our future. We appreciate all who have shown interest and registered for this Industry Connect by joining this online event. Before we start, quick introduction about me. My name is Rajan. I'm currently doing the role of program manager in Acsia Technologies. I take care of software delivery of multiple automotive programs. So as Elizabeth said, I worked on core automotive domain like after sales, warehouse management, supply chain management, vehicle production control, and instrument cluster and infotainment systems. So let's get into the session and let me start sharing my screen. Govind, can you give me access to share the screen?
Yes, sir. Right now you can share.
Okay. Yes, I think I am able to. So let me present my screen. Just let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. So today's topic that I want to share to all of you is about the future of mobility. But before we get into the future, I've divided this session into two parts. First, I would like to give you an automotive industry overview, talking about the history, past, present, and future, or who are the disruptors in this industry, and where do we look forward from here. And then also as a second part, I want to talk about what Acsia is doing and how you can be part of Acsia also. Okay. So let's start with a little bit of history. So the first car that was manufactured was by Carl Benz, the founder of Mercedes-Benz. So it was in 1886. So it's close to more than 100 years now. And same way, on Ford created a Ford Model T in the year 1930. So that is when the assembly line was brought in. Okay, so this is how an assembly line looked before the car was. Everybody went into and made one car and then moved on to the next car. Then, when Ford introduced this model, the vehicles started moving in an assembly line, and even though it was more than 100 years, it has been integrated all the major car manufacturers and industries in this same assembly line model. It's just a little more advanced, the same. So these two are kind of two important turning points in the automobile industry. So on a very high level, if you look at OEM is an an OEM like a Mercedes or a Ford, what they manufacture is they manufacture a car which is assembled by a lot of parts. So they are more like assembling parts that they are getting from different suppliers. So there are tier one suppliers, like for example, Goodyear or Michelin will give the tires. They sometimes they manufacture their own engines. They get infotainment systems, clusters from different tier one suppliers, and then there are some suppliers who supply to the tier one, so they are called as tier two suppliers. So this is the pyramid of an automobile manufacturing industry. So this is how a car is made, with a lot of suppliers involved in making a car. Okay, so to make everybody understand a little bit on how this industry is working and what is the trend, and since the crowd is a very young crowd, I don't want to go back to a very old, before 2000. So let's take the 3 decades, that is from 2000 to 2010. And let's look at 2010 to 20 and 20 to 30, how it's going to be. So let's consider that as a past, present, and future for us to understand. So for everybody's understanding, I've taken 3 industries: automotive, media, and mobile. And let's look at the core purpose of these industries. So automotive was always an industry that was giving you transportation for moving from point A to point B. Media was a domain or an industry that is giving you a entertainment value, and mobile was more of a communication, or it is just modes of communication, telephones that were there before. But when you look at the past, that is between from 2000 to 2010, the leaders in these industries, or let's say for automotive, it was Toyota, and for media, let's assume it was Walt Disney, and then for mobile, it was Nokia. But now when you look at the present 2020 generation, what has happened is all these 3 industries have changed a lot. So if you see, one of the most innovative company in the automotive right now is Tesla, and for media, it is Netflix or the streaming platforms have become innovative. And then iPhone or the touch screen phones were the innovation. So what was the innovation that happened was, in the automotive industry, electrification is what became. So the shift towards an electric car became more. And in an entertainment, again, with the advent of all the inventions in internet and all, so the streaming platforms became much better, and people started watching. Especially the COVID also assisted in making the streaming platform much more accessible to all. And the touch screens, yes. So what is the connection between these 2 decades is, the systems or the most of them became very connected. Okay, that is because now not only this industry, if you look at the any industry, like we have Swiggy for food, we have Amazon for delivery or shopping. So all these have become very connected now. So you can do many things from your phone or from a device that you have in your hand, and you're at any moment you're able to connect. So you can do video call with your parents from any place. So this has become a very connected solution. Okay, that is what has moved the industry towards in the last 10 decades. So now, last decade. So if you look at the next 10 years or the future, what is going to happen now is, it is going to be the technology that is going to come is taking the connected systems to the next level. So that is going to become like in the automotive, it is going to be the autonomous vehicles that is going to come. And in the media, it is going to be more of virtual reality. And in the wearable tech, like the goggles or Google Glass kind of things are going to come. So if you look at it, what is happening now is in this, it is going to be much more personal. So in this next 10 years, the experience that you're going to get in these three industries or any industry is going to be much more personal. So before a car was a transportation, then it became a family vehicle. Now it's going to be much more personal. Then you can spend more time with what you want to do inside the car when the car drives itself. What you before you go to watch a movie and then you started watching with family. Now you can have a personal experience of virtual reality in the future. That is where the Facebook and metaverse are going to. So as you can understand, the industry is moving to a much more personalized experience. And that is why even the car manufacturers want to give you the driver or the passengers much more personalized experience than just sitting in a car. Okay, so that is what the trend is going to be in the future. But let's look at a little bit on the electrification that happened. Okay, so the electric cars, the first car that became electric was in the year 1899 itself, there was an electric car created. And then in 1996, the GM tried the first modern electric car, but it didn't fly. I mean, it didn't go forward, or the electric was always kind of a concept car. Okay, but what made an electric car much more viable in the current situation, and why it was not viable 10 years ago? So first thing is Tesla tried the Model S. Even though it was little premium model, it was still it was the first step towards the electrification. And then slowly, Tesla's Model 3 in 2018 was the most affordable electric car. And by that time, all the luxury car makers started going electric. Because as you can see, the automobile industry were led by a lot of like Mercedes, Ford, Volkswagen. All these are very old companies. They've been there for more than 100 years, and they have a very big legacy. But how did the Tesla, a company that had just started in 2006, and then they started slowly building, and how did they enter this race is what is very crucial for us to understand. Okay, and here, once the luxury car makers like BMW, Mercedes, and all of them understood that this is going to be the next, they started releasing all their whole direction towards their production of cars changed. So if you can see the all the new models that are coming out, Mercedes have told that by 2030, all their lines is going to be electric vehicles. Okay, so let's look at a little bit of how it assisted. So first, two things happen. One is the hardware and the software. So the hardware, the battery technology moved a lot in the last 10 years. So if you can see the lithium battery prices, which was in 2010 and what is in 2020, is like 1/10 of what it was in 2010. So that is what one of the reasons. One of the reasons for this price plunge also was because there was in the mobile industry, everybody that was using lithium ion, the demand started becoming high and the prices started falling. So the battery technology favored Tesla much more for them to create a car at that time. So the hardware actually became much more easy. And also the software development, again, was something that like the mobile phones and app development, the software related to the cars and the things that are required also started developing very fast. So Acsia kind of started in 2014. We were in this period where this thing is starting, and so it actually favored our growth also. So if you look at it on a very high level, the difference between an electric car and a conventional car is the average car has around 30,000 parts that goes into making a car. But a car like an electric car like Tesla will have only 10,000 parts. So the moving parts that are required in a vehicle has reduced. See, parts that are not on Tesla, there is no oil pump, there is no fuel pump, there is no exhaust, there is no belts, there is no muffler, alternator, clutch, nothing is there. So whatever you go and do on a petrol car on your first service, you don't have to do anything on a Tesla car. So if you buy a Tesla car or any electric car, for the next 2 or 3 years, you don't have to do any service for it. It's like you buy a phone and then you keep charging and keep using it. Okay, so that is the only thing that you have to take care is the battery. So that is one of the reasons why the electric car was a disruptor. And advantages of EV also, we see it is very energy efficient, fast acceleration, silent cabin. So the practicality of having an EV also became easy. So that is why the move to an electric car became easy. So Tesla releases a major software update every 4 weeks that contains improvements and features for their vehicles. So as you can see how much important the software has become, because it has all the, it takes an average car once sold, as I said, the feature functionality remains the same till its end of life. So you don't go back and get it changed. But a Tesla car, once they sell it, it has all the necessary hardware and software that are scalable. That means you have all the radars, you have all the cameras that are there in the vehicle, so that can be upgraded. They can just release a software patch and make it running. So that is why the software importance also became very high. Okay, it is like people getting Christmas gift. They go to sleep, next day they come, there is a new feature added in their car. So this is something that is what made the industry move towards. And now you can see most of these things in all the other vehicles also. So before we go, just a small snippet. If you look at the Tesla logo here, it is based on an electric motor and a bush for it. So that is why the logo has that symbol of an electric motor. Okay. Then just moving on to some of the unique features that we have in Tesla is it has an autopilot. Now all the vehicles that are coming in the market nowadays, this was launched in 2014 in Tesla, and 2016 it was becoming mainstream. But if you look at XUV 700 that was launched last year, now has this autopilot option. The same way, they have a bioweapon defense mode, that is the circulation of air that is happening. It can have a high-end filters in the vehicle. So that means when there is a wildfire happening in US, you can, even if you drive through it, the smoke or something doesn't come into your vehicle because it is filtered, and the air you breathe inside the vehicle is much better. So that is why that is some kind of a unique feature. Then there is a sentry mode. That means when your vehicle is parked, if somebody hits it, if something happens, the camera start recording all the movements. Okay. The same way, even if you look at the key, it is very uniquely made. It's a very small car-shaped key. But you can also have nowadays, the latest Teslas just have something like a credit card. You just tap it on the car and you can enter the vehicle. And then one of the biggest thing was the app. Everything that can be controlled, like the AC, you can start the car from your home. All these can be done through your Tesla app. And then there's superchargers. And then while you charge your vehicle, you can sit and watch Netflix. And then there is a play mode, which is very fast. There is a dog mode, that is, it has a lot of sensors inside the vehicle that detects when movement is there, and it keeps the AC on. So even if you leave your child or dogs inside the vehicle, it can still be running. So they don't have an engine, so that's why they call it as front. That is, you can use the front trunk also as a boot. And then they have air suspension, and they have a Falcon door wings on the Model Y. So these are some of the unique things that came in a car, which was very different in this last 10 years than a regular car that you see on the road. So that is why they are called as disruptors in the market. They changed a lot. And one of the most famous features of them is this summon feature. That means if you are there in a parking lot, you just ask for the car to come to you, and the car automatically comes to you through the app. It navigates by itself. So these are the things that made Tesla a very unique thing. But as I said, now most of the vehicles that you can see in the market is slowly adapting to this trend. And whatever you saw as the future there, now it started becoming the present, and we're moving into a much more futuristic modes where the autonomous driving is going to be the next level. So now we already have semi-automated driving system. The dashboards are virtual. Navigations are better. You have because of mobile phone integration, you don't need a CD player, radio, nothing is required. You just connect your phone and your phone becomes your head unit now. And then you have heads-up display, then you have a driver monitoring system, automatic braking system. Certain cars now can park itself. There is a forward collision warnings are there. Adaptive cruise control, it can adjust the speed according to how you go in the highway. Depending on your traffic signs, it recognizes and adjusts the speed. And now phone is just a key. I mean, you don't really have to have a physical key. You can be in any country, and then you can start your car and keep it on also. So augmented reality is coming up, and it is making the display much better. So as you move forward, the arrows become brighter. things like that. Then there are gesture control. Just by your hands, you can do certain functions. Then robo taxis and color changing cars are some of the new trends. So on a very high level, it is more like it's like a smartphone on wheels nowadays. The cars are, because it has a lot of technology, there are a lot of software that is being written inside the car now. It is not like how it is before. It is much moving from a. That is why if you see, even Apple is doing a project on a car. So Apple cars are going to be launched very soon. So that is why these technology companies like Google and other people are moving towards the automotive industry. So what was a traditional industry with a lot of history now is changing into a gadget, and it's moving into a more technology oriented vehicle. So that is creating a lot of opportunities for people like us, where we can write very interesting codes, interesting features on our vehicles. So these are the technologies with which you can work. Okay, these are things that are going to be in the future. So let's look at a little bit about Acsia Technology. So on a very to give you an easy understanding of what we do, this is just a snippet of Avengers roll card or a credit roll that happens at the end of the movie. But when you look at it, you start observing there are a lot of Indian names, right? You see something called a Method Studios, and Method Studios is a company based out of Pune that is working on the VFX and all of major movies. Same way, if you look at Stereo D, again, it is a company that is working on VFX of many movies like Avengers and Spider-Man. So in the same way, if you look at the credit rolls, if there is a roll happening for the BMW 7 Series or a Maybach or a Ford Mustang or a Ford Bronco, actually you would see Axia's name in it, and we are proud to say we have left our DNA in these cars. So our engineers have worked and created softwares that are there in these vehicles, which are on road, and we have left our mark on these vehicles. So as you would have seen some snippets about, it is very like we are very proud to say that from Kerala we are. It is a firm that is working on latest technologies of cars like BMW. So what does Acsia do? Okay, so on a very high level, we work on instrument cluster software and in-vehicle infotainment systems, and also we work on the rear seat entertainment systems. So anything that is having a screen and the software that runs behind the screen, we are part of that. And as you know, the clusters before used to be analog, then it became semi-digital, and then it became an all-digital cluster. Now it is just a plain LCD screen, and then it is all just it's more of a software now. So even same way, the infotainment system also moved from radio and all to now a very plain screens. So a vehicle has a lot of ECUs basically. So all these ECUs are the ones that are giving many feedbacks into the cluster as well as the infotainment system. So these ECUs give very critical information like what is the engine power, what is the power window status, AC status, airbag status. So all these have a software that is running behind these ECUs. Okay, there are close to 100 ECUs in a modern car. Actually, it used to be more. Now it is reduced, and it is becoming. There are things like domain controller, which is taking functionalities of multiple ECUs into one single ECU. Okay, so we solve problems for Tesla here. So we also worked on the Maybach, the rear seat entertainment system, and also on Mini Cooper and the latest BMW 7 Series, where it has a 4K digital display at the rear. It's like a home theater display that is there. This model is just going to be launched this year in India. It will be probably launched next year, and you can see it on roads by next year. So before I close, I mean, I try to cover the industry and the work and the scope that we do. I would just like to leave with the last video of a Ford Mustang that was just revealed in the month of September. This model is going to be launched on 2024, and we have worked on the cluster as well as the infotainment system there. So this is a video just showing about the animations and the graphics that are there inside the cluster on a modern cluster now. Because the cluster is no more just a display. You can do many things with it. I mean, you can change the way it looks. So I'm just going to play this video, just a short video for all of your reference. So thank you for the time. So this is the latest one that we have launched now. There are other models of Ford also that we have launched in the last month. This is something that I thought it was exciting for all of you to know. We have been part of that cluster development on the animation graph, the logic behind that, because there are multiple layers. There is a HMI layer, there is a platform layer, there is a testing. There are different layers inside that. So that's it from my side. I hope I was able to cover some of the what the industry is and what we do. So over to you, Govind or Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Actually, the session was pretty awesome. So what I can say is actually last 20 minutes was actually with a lot of very valuable and information on this automobile industry. So I think a person who's very much enthusiastic about the automobile sector or maybe the cars and all actually can have a lot of things to jot down or maybe to prepare for. I think that kind of an awesome session was that. I think we have seen the past, present, and future of automobile industry and where it is currently in. We have seen super examples of Tesla and where a company from Trivandrum, actually one of the very actually I'm feeling very proud. So I'm from Trivandrum and actually I can say a company from Trivandrum serving infotainment system to a lot of prestigious automobile industry like BMW, Ford, and Mustang. And we can definitely see your infotainment system in all of the car what we are what we are seeing around. So yeah, so next section actually we are we want all the students to respond actually to ask you questions. So you have seen a lot of information last 20 minutes. So actually you can mute your mic and or maybe you can put your questions on the chat and you can ask you a question. So that's it. So students, please come up. I think you definitely have a lot of questions because something we have seen last 20 minutes is just the future of car and the automobile industry. Yeah, students, please. Yeah, so Abhishek has started asking the question. Thank you, Abhishek. So what he said is why there is a shortage of semiconductor. Okay. I think even Skoda reduced 10-inch screen. Yo, so that's more technical. So definitely, Rajan sir, you can take it.
Yes, yes. So basically, not only Skoda, I mean, in most of the places, many of the industry right now, even for us when we are testing, even though there is a model that is going to be launched, even we are not getting a set to be tested because our industry, it is not only just software on the system like any other software industry. We need a lot of hardware to actually test it because once you develop the software, you need to flash it on the hardware. You need to test it physically on a test bench because we won't be accessing a car. So there is a test bench that simulates all the functionalities. So here, even to get a display of, let's say, we are also facing a shortage. I think it is more, it is happening around, it is mostly because of the supply chain market. There's a high demand. So there is a priority that is going on right now in the industry that they would rather want to give a semiconductor chip for a mobile phone rather than something for a vehicle because that is much more selling for them. So that is why there is a big shortage. So even car manufacturers, what they are doing is they are trying to they reuse the older models and then give it, and then when they get it, and also right now the market is in a seller's market, we call it. That means even if you don't have, let's say, a very low-end car, the people are ready to buy it because they don't want to wait for the high end. There is a purchasing power and the demand for car is more. So even if you go to purchase a car now, there is no discounts offered because the market is so good. So as Abhishek mentioned, even though they reduced the 10-inch to 8-inch, there are still people to buy. I think car industry also is trying to make use of the situation now.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. So we have next question, sir.
Yes. When do the automobile expect the level 5? See, level 3 is what is kind of achieved somewhere in Germany in the Autobahn. Because it actually, however we say, right? Like, let's take an example of movie industry. Let's say how much of a streaming thing happens, still people are going to watch. I mean, they all say theaters will be getting closed in the coming years or months. There are certain things that will still be there. So for example, even this level 5 to reach, there are certain hours of driving that the vehicle has to cross so that they are awarded a level 5. So even Google has been running for so many kilometers, that is some 80,000 kilometers. Once they complete those kilometers only, the rate or the incidence should be very less. Then only they will be awarded. So it is not very realistic to see a level 5 very soon in the coming days. Even I'm not sure autonomous may be in the future, but people would go into a transition phase. Maybe from electric, it may move to hybrid, or maybe first it will be hybrid and then full electric vehicle by the time the infrastructure develops. I think autonomous level 5 is going to take some time. It's not going to be immediate. Just we have reached level 3 now. What are the features that might be needed, especially for car sharing? There is no specific features. I think there is already, if you see, people are not purchasing cars nowadays. In many of the developed places, they want to go for a subscription model. So industry here also in some of the places like Delhi and all, you get subscription for certain models. That means you don't have to actually purchase the car. You can just take the car on lease. Like 1 month you can use an SUV, 1 month you can use a sedan, and then keep changing. I mean, the trend is going like that. Uh, Sorry, I didn't understand. Do you consider substantial? I'm not able to get that question.
Davis, actually, you can unmute yourself and ask.
You consider sustainability pillars in procuring raw materials. Actually, I didn't understand what is sustainability pillars, but basically raw materials. See, yeah, David?
Yeah, thank you for answering my questions. I just like to know as a company that you make this infotainment systems, which consists of many semiconductors and also many other raw materials which extracted directly from the environment. So currently it's a big question of climate change, especially in the transport sector. So, as an infotainment system, there might be, I don't know how much of the percentage of an automobile constitute an infotainment system and how much material that it contributes to a car. But anyway, there might be a lot of materials like copper, cobalt, and aluminum, nickel, which are kind of critical raw materials as per the current situation. And do you consider such kind of environmental aspects from procuring this kind of raw materials when constructing the equipments for the infotainment systems for the automobile?
Yeah. So basically, we work on more on the software side, not on the hardware side. So, like for example, when the hardware, there is a tier one supplier who's supplying for it. Let's say, take an example of Panasonic. If Panasonic will be creating the head unit or the cluster, they will be procuring the chips from the Qualcomm or different people, and they will be assembling it. And we work only on the software. So from a software point of view, we don't have to worry about raw materials, or I don't think there is anything specific that we have to write in terms of in the hardwares that are being used. But since these hardwares that we are talking is going to be tested in multiple temperatures, because it can be driven in a very in very extreme temperatures, so they go through a lot of testing. So the design and the elements that is being used in these things are very carefully selected, that can withstand very high heat and low temperatures. So there is a definitely there is a heat sensing things are taken care when it is created, and also the raw materials has to be really sustainable, is what I would say, because they would try to make it as efficient as possible, because it generates a lot of heat also.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I can be there at IPT if today if you are free at any time.
Okay, I see one more question. How secure it is when a car was fully automated? So as I say, even now we don't have a fully autonomous car. So whenever they say autonomous, there is always a star given, and still it is the responsibility of the person who's driving the car. So I would say it will take some time. There are a lot of studies done. Any invention, for that matter, or any innovation, it takes time. Even there is a lot of emphasis given on the safety aspect when, because car manufacturer is liable for, there is a lot of laws that is required. So it will be, I think, the fully autonomous. Uh, as far as the software is concerned, the Tesla's autopilot and all are almost as good as human driver. It is really good. From an algorithm perspective, yes, they are very good systems. But in a real world scenario and scenarios like, I mean, conditions like how we have it in India, it is not going to be so easy. It will take some time.
Excuse me, sir. I have a question.
Mhm.
My name is Nandan.
Yeah.
I'm a computer science engineer.
Okay.
What career opportunities do I have in the automotive industry? Where can my knowledge apply? Could you give me an idea about that?
Yeah, so as I said, even as a computer science, here, see, basically, even in our embedded, so what we use is embedded C software that we use for the programming language. There, there are, as I said, there are different layers. So, for example, we have a very, we have a what we call it as AutoSAR stacks on which the logic or the application software is written, above which there is an HMI, there is a human vision interface. So if you are a person who's inclined to do very creative works or graphics and animations or the how the images are need to be done, so that is the sector that you could work. So the other layer is the application logic. That is where you probably, from a computer science background, you can write a lot of programming there because see there is a lot of logic that comes from the vehicle. There are a lot of signals coming, right? From these signals, we need to understand and write logic. So let's say I need to pop up a window of a warning button when the vehicle is going above 80 kilometers per hour. So the signals or the diagnostic layer will give you that the vehicle is going above 80 kilometers per hour. And the logic part is written by a programmer who says that, okay, it has hit 80, so let's pop up the warning. And that warning is taken by the upper layer or the HMI layer and they display the warning on the screen. Okay, so from a programming perspective, that is where the logic is written, and there is a lot of scope. And there are some people who would want to get into testing. You can get into testing. There are people who want to talk about requirements. Then there are systems is another area that you could do.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, and there is a question
I
which
think Lavin Tom also has the same question. I think that got cleared. I hope. So that person has asked which protocol or program language is used commonly in infotainment system. So I hope that is also clear. So Della Maria has asked like which software is used for designing.
Yeah, so basically there are different softwares. For example, in the four things that I showed you, we use a tool called as CANSI. CANSI is a Rightware, is a company that uses that tool. It is more for automotive designing. So when I say designing, it can be even the images that are coming in, or there is an we use 3ds, 3D Max, Maya, and all for rendering. There could be software used for that. Even normal Photoshop would be used for certain elements when the image has to be edited and certain images has to be used. So it all depends on the customer because when you go for a very high-end vehicle, the processing power and the ability of that particular hardware is also very high. Okay, so it can allow certain very high intensive softwares like ANSI. But for a very normal system, very simple vehicles, that cannot be it because it becomes slow. And you also have to understand these are things that have to happen very fast, especially in cluster. Like infotainment, there can be a lag, but when the cluster is happening, it is very safety related element. So whenever you are rendering or whatever you're doing, it could not be like something that you do in a mobile phone because there is no touch to it, but the rendering needs to be very fast. When the speedometer goes, after hitting the car, let's say a car hits 100, it should not move slowly and come to 100, right? So it should go with the relation with the vehicle speed. So that is why the softwares that are being used also are very has to be very intensive based on the model of the vehicle we use.
Yeah, Della, I hope your doubt has been cleared. So I think Sarath also has a question on the programming part. So which program language is used in ECU programming?
Yeah, so here currently we use embedded C is what we use for because these are all embedded systems, right? So we use embedded C for writing the logic.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think one more question came from Lavin.
Yes, why same infotainment system is not used in other car, even similar cars? So let's say I wouldn't say it is not used. Actually, it is used. So if you see for me, if there is a Ford is going to design a Mustang, and if they're going to design a pickup truck, okay, pickup truck. The only difference generally in these vehicles will be the HMI layer. I told you, the topmost layer. A very simple example is a sports car can go up to 300 kilometers per hour, but the pickup truck may be 200 or 250, right? So what they will do is the software generally will be the same, but you will have to customize. You have to use it. For example, the HMI has to show only 300. So that is where the customization happens. And also, the manufacturer tries to use the same or a similar thing on the similar vehicles. For example, the pickup as well as the vehicle like Ford Endeavour might have the same system. It will use the same. It could be even for, let's say, Mahindra Scorpio and then XUV. The logic or the part will be the same, but definitely there will be a bit of animation change in the starting animation of an XUV, and an animation that comes on a Scorpio may be different. So it is not completely reusable because there will be certain functionalities that will have to be removed, and there are different price points in which the vehicle is also sold. Right, there is a 20 lakh car and there is a 10 lakh car, so there are certain features that needs to be removed. So from a software point of view, if you see, most of the vehicles will have all the softwares enabled, or it can be just disabled with a line of code. But what needs to be done on a system, on a vehicle, will depend on the type of vehicle that we use. But yes, we reuse. I think it's not that we do completely different, but there are some new things are coming, right? For example, let's say we have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which supports for in the latest vehicles. Apple CarPlay also releases a updated version, so we have to keep updating it, and that, so those things are the ones that will come in the newer system.
Yeah. So, any questions, students? So you can unmute and ask, or maybe you can put it in the chat. So meanwhile, actually, I have a question, sir. So
Yes.
we are actually seeing a lot of students are being hired by Acsia. So what are your hiring process? So what are you looking at in a fresher, and what are the different stages of your hiring?
See, basically, we go for campus hiring. We go for when we look at a fresher, probably it's not something that you will come with a knowledge that, because you're starting fresh. So the only thing probably we would see is your academics, your attitude, and those are the things that probably will make a difference. I think that is a question that Jayachandran can answer. So he's here. So yeah, Jayachandran maybe is a question that you could answer because he's the VP of.
Yeah, I think thanks, Rajan. I think you have given actually the crux of the matter. Basically, the type of people, what the process, if you ask me, there is an online test, which is basically we are trying to understand the aptitude and a basic programming test, and there can be some kind of a coding assignments given. There will be a final technical interview, and there will be some sort of HR interviews. So that's the process for hiring for Axia, and we are hiring diploma holders, BTech and MTech graduates, and particularly people those who are passion for embedded systems. We prefer them for our software development programs. And we are definitely looking for dreamers in artificial intelligence. Those who are passionate in machine learning, we are considering. So these are things which I can tell you at this point of time. And the advantage with Axia is that the employees get to know about the automotive industry completely, and the employees are getting opportunity to work with premium auto giants basically in the industry, and there is an inspiring work culture, and you can get to know about the industry experts. So, basically, particularly people those who are entering in the organization as freshers, they can actually build their career in this industry, because there are a lot of experts. Like, for example, Rajan is in front of you at this point of time. Like, you can meet a lot of industry experts and coordinate with them in the company. So that's what I would like to tell you at this point of time. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I think all these students who like to join in an automobile industry, actually, you got the point, and you got something to prepare for. So yeah, so one more question from that. Actually, so if I want to recommend one of my siblings or maybe one of my junior, so who really passionate to join in an automobile industry, so what I would suggest or what I would advise them to study, is it an artificial intelligence, or maybe for each and every branch, maybe let's say an electrical or a computer science or mechanical engineer. So what I'll suggest to get into this industry, is it they have to study artificial intelligence, or maybe the this newer this electric motors, or what is it, or maybe something which is they are really interested to study, that is enough. So what thing actually you are really wanting to see in a fresher?
Okay. Programming skills in embedded C++ is definitely required in this industry. Okay. And those who are, you know, we require programming in Java for digital side of, products, basically software products. So you can just suggest saying that, any electronics communication ECE students or computer software programming students, and then any other streams, if they actually learn programming skills in embedded C++, definitely this is the right industry. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I. Yeah.
thanks a lot, sir. So any questions, students or faculty? We have 3 more minutes to close, so you can definitely unmute yourself and ask. So this is actually the right opportunity. So we have leaders from automobile in this infotainment, like the specific sector of the automobile industry, that's the infotainment sector. So we have a very distinguished panel. So you can ask the questions right now. So this is the best opportunity. Anybody? Yeah, I think so. Uh, Anyone have a question? So you can definitely put in the chat as well. So we can definitely take it up. I think students may get enough information to. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think Nandan. Yeah, so here's a question. So will Python be applied in a programming site?
I think
So,
Rajan, you can answer that question.
yeah, are you able to hear me? Because I still had a small network issue.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
yes, we can.
okay. Yeah, Python, yes, we do have, as I said, there is a testing thing that we use. So we use Python scripts to send some signals and get some data. So Python is very much used on doing some automated testing scripts. So Python is a knowledge that can be also be applied.
I hope Nandan. Rajan sir has cleared your doubt. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Nandan. So no doubts anymore, and no queries anymore. So yeah, so I think so we are. I think time is up. So let's close this session. So thank you, Jayachandran sir and Rajan sir, for spending a valuable time of yours with us. Actually, you have actually you spend a lot of time with us. Actually, telling a lot of information on this automobile industry, especially on the infotainment part. And definitely we are actually hoping to see a great success for Acsia in installing or maybe implementing your system across all and each and every cars we are seeing. So thank you both of you. So, and thank you, all the audience, students and faculty who joined today, spent almost 1 hour with us. So I hope all the automobile enthusiasts have got a good takeaway for today, or maybe for the for preparing. So definitely you may have jotted down a lot of points to prepare for your career. So yeah, and definitely thank you, Skillax backend support team, Amin, Purnima, Elizabeth ma'am, so joining this session today. So yeah, so students, actually we have a certificate which we are providing for the session. So you can actually uh, fill in this form, which I am just putting it in the chat. So yeah, you can take right now. Actually, I have added a Google form, a link, so you can take that form and fill it. So then only we can circulate your certificate. So thank you, Raj sir and Jayachandran sir, for spending time with us. So we are actually moving to the end. So
Thank you, Govind, for having us. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Yes. Bye.
thank you everyone.